start, and at Bronie's desk, we have my favourite pharmacist in the world, Pharmacist Ben Fuchs, all the way from Colorado.
Boulder, Colorado.
Boulder, Colorado. Anyway, okay, I'm going to go and visit you one day. I swear I am.
Boulder's beautiful.
Anyway,
because
I haven't been to the US since 2004. But anyway, wow. Yes. Getting back to the subject at hand, last time we spoke to Pharmacist Ben, he gave us through the whole talk 4 different topics to work on. So I chose one of them, and I'm going to ask him, because this one intrigued me even more, is this study that came out about niacin may cause heart disease. And there's a lot of heart disease going around at the moment, but I don't think it's caused from niacin. I know what it's caused from, but I can't say that because it's the elephant in the room that our governments won't let us talk about. But anyway, so Pharmacist Ben, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yes. Periodically, you get these articles, these studies that come out, and there's a couple things that come to mind. First of all, a study can be a research study, or it can be based on biological research, we'll say, or it could be based on what's called epidemiology.
Yeah.
Epidemiology is when they ask questions of people, and then based on their answers, they put them all together in a pile and do a bunch of statistical analysis and then come out with conclusions. A biological study is when they actually look at a cell or look at a tissue or look at the body, the biological system, and see what's happening. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of studies, that's the kind of research that has accuracy. That's empiricism. You're actually looking at something and you're seeing what's happening. The other kinds of studies are epidemiology. If you ever hear 20,000 people were surveyed and they found that if you ate bacon, you had a 20% increased chance of death or something along those lines. One recently came out that said, if you practice intermittent fasting, you may have heard of this, intermittent fasting, you had a 91% chance of death, increased death. When you see these headlines, if you're a layperson, you'll just go with the headlines. But if you're a scientist, you'll say, okay, well, how did they do this? How did they arrive at the conclusions? What were the metrics? What was the methodology of the study? Now, when it comes to epidemiology, they're based on questionnaires. They'll say, Bronie, what did you have for breakfast today? And based on what Bronie says, that will go, Bronie's answers will go into the answer pool. And based on all the Bronies and all the answer pools, a bunch of statistics will come out. But right away, you can see a problem. Bronie might not remember accurately what she had for breakfast. Bronie may be dishonest. She might not want you to know that she had bacon and eggs. So she may say, no, I had oatmeal for breakfast. I'm not picking on you, Bronie. I'm just saying.
No, but I get you, Drew.
Right, when you depend on people's answers. So that's, first of all, that's strike one against this ridiculous article, because what they did was they surveyed a bunch of people to see, they actually checked their blood. They were looking for a metabolite. Metabolite is a breakdown product. That is what the body converts the chemicals to. I suppose I should take a quick digression and tell you, this is kind of, common sense, but maybe I should just repeat it. The body is a great chemical machine where chemicals are transformed. Chemical A goes to chemical B, goes to chemical C, goes to chemical D. Chemical A, the original chemical, is broken down and converted into a bunch of different chemicals. Those are called metabolites. Mm-hmm. So you start off with chemical A, and then it's broken down and converted, and a bunch of stuff happens. Those are called metabolites. Well, what they found was 2 particular metabolites in the blood seem to be associated with cardiovascular disease. These 2 metabolites are breakdown products of niacin. So you say, oh, wow, breakdown products of niacin are associated with cardiovascular disease. Well, it's a very large jump from breakdown products of niacin being in the blood of people that have heart attacks to niacin causing heart disease. Because as it turns out, these breakdown products are also associated with kidney disease. So how do we know it's niacin and not the kidney disease? Because we know kidney disease is associated with heart attacks, with cardiovascular disease. Nobody checked for niacin. There's no mention of niacin in this research. There's no mention of niacin in the experiments, in the studies. There's only a mention of the metabolites, which are also associated with kidney disease. So to assume that it's niacin and not kidney disease that's causing the increase in heart attacks, it flies in the face of what we know about niacin being important for the heart. Niacin has a well-known reputation for lowering blood fats, for lowering cholesterol, for improving cardiovascular, improving blood perfusion, opening up blood vessels. Niacin has a well-known reputation for improving energy production, and the heart is very dependent on energy. Niacin is part of the sugar metabolizing complex in the body, and we know that poor sugar control is associated with heart disease. So for many, many reasons, instead of niacin being a cause of heart disease, niacin, from what we know about niacin as a functional nutrient, is actually associated with improvements in heart disease. And to see two metabolites which are linked to kidney disease as much as they are niacin metabolites, and then say, oh, well, niacin causes heart disease, flies in the face of common sense. Yet, the headline said, and by the way, if you read the headlines, they didn't actually say niacin causes heart disease. They said niacin, the results suggest that high doses of niacin, or niacin maybe. Nobody ever said anything about niacin causing heart disease. These are what are called weasel words.
Yeah.
And these weasel words are used liberally when headline writers and when people writing articles want to get your attention. So always dive deeper. When something doesn't seem like it makes sense or something is contradictory to what you already know, dive deeper. And you'll see in this particular article that nobody ever checked for niacin. Niacin wasn't even part of this research. It was the two metabolites that, while they are metabolites of niacin, they're also well-known urotoxic agents, which means they're linked to kidney disease. They're found in the urine, and they're found in the blood of people who have kidney disease. So
Wow.
The real problem is kidney disease, which we know is linked to hypertension and cardiovascular health problems. Now, kidney disease is itself a problem that's linked to elevated blood sugar and hypertension. High blood pressure and elevated blood sugar are problems associated with kidney disease, and those can indeed be linked to cardiovascular health problems. So don't worry about niacin, work on your blood sugar. And this is really, really important. You know, I've been talking about the triangle of disease for a long time,
Yes.
right? I've talked about it on this program. But I've decided, I came up with the triangle of disease because I wanted to simplify everything. I said, all you gotta do is worry about these 3 points, and then you'll be able to take care of all your health challenges. Well, I decided that the triangle of disease is itself too complicated. So now we have the horizontal plane of disease, the horizon of disease, the line of disease. There's only 2 points that you have to worry about. Only 2 points. And I know I must sound like a broken record, but I don't care. Because number 1, repetition is reinforcement. And number 2, because our medical model owns our ideas about health, we're going upstream. We're going against the grain. You're going against everything we hear on the news and in the mainstream and on the internet and in magazines and in the press when we say that your sickness or diseases are not medical. They're lifestyle. So I'm going against the grain, number 1. Number 2, repetition is reinforcement. And number 3, it's all you really have to do. Because while the adrenal thyroid complex at the tip of the triangle of disease is very important, if you take care of the 2 on the bottom, the tip will take care of itself. So what you have to do is you have to focus on the digestive system and the blood sugar system. The digestive system and the blood sugar system. And both of those obviously have one thing in common: food, how we eat. And this should be so reassuring. And this should be so inspiring to anybody who's dealing with a chronic health challenge or taking care of a loved one who's dealing with a chronic health challenge. Yet, as much as I repeat and I say it over and over again, people still say, what do I do about my autoimmune disease? What do I do about my arthritis? I'll do a whole talk about the digestive system, the blood sugar system, and I'll get questions. They'll say, I have an eye problem. What do I do? And I have to say, digestive system and blood sugar, digestive system and blood sugar. So this should be a mantra for everybody who is number one in longevity, number two, taking care of somebody who has a health challenge, and number three, who has a health challenge themselves. Digestion and blood sugar. And if you think it is simple, it is.
Yeah.
But it's based on a concept called simplexity. Have you heard of that, Bronie? Simplexity?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
Look, that's very difficult for some people.
Simplexity is the idea
That's
that
it.
very complex forms come from very simple building blocks. It's a physics complex. I didn't make it up. Simplexity means very complicated physical forms can be built out of very simple building blocks. Take your computer. You look at your computer. We're talking on Zoom. We're doing this miracle where I'm talking to you thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away on the other side of the planet. I'm talking to you in real time. Miracle. You press a button and you get a website with all kinds of animation and pictures and information. Miracle. But it's all built out of 0 and 1. All this miracle comes from two digits, from a binary system. We build these complex information processing entities, systems, out of 2 digits, 0 and 1. That's simplexity. Likewise, in the body, we build very complicated biochemical breakdowns out of 2 very simple breakdowns. And that is the digestive system and the blood sugar system. Now, it's not because, and I know I said this before, but I'll say it again, it's not because I'm a food guy, I'm Mr. Organic guy, I'm Mr. Eat Right guy. And this is important because we have to be careful. Those of us who are selling longevity, distributing longevity, coaching people, and people who are dealing with health challenges or who have loved ones, not to make people feel bad about food. Because inherently we do feel bad. We do secretly feel guilty about it. We do secretly know that the French fries and the ice cream and the Snickers bars, we do know that inside that that's problematic. And so when you start to tell somebody about food, you run the risk of just having them shut down. So you have to be really careful. Also, with food, as it turns out, foods that we think are good for us sometimes aren't. So you have to understand where there's smoke, there's fire. There's 2 different types of reasoning. And what we're talking about here really is reasoning. There's 2 ways you can come to a conclusion when you have facts. One is by taking all of your facts and then putting them together to form a theory. Yep. The other is to start with a theory and to derive facts from that theory. The first way, we have a bunch of facts or symptoms in the case of health, and then you come up with a theory or a diagnosis in the case of health, is called inductive reasoning. The second way is called deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is when you have a first principle or a premise or a hypothesis, and you derive facts from that. The medical model uses inductive reasoning. They see all your symptoms, and they put it together to form a diagnosis. That's called inductive reasoning. The problem with that is you can't ever gather up all of the data. There's too much. So you have to cherry pick. You have to find the most prominent ones. You can't find all of the data points. It's too many. There's an infinite amount of data points. So you have to pick the most important ones. And the most important ones are picked arbitrarily. Or even if they're not arbitrarily, there's still some kind of judgment that has to take place. There's no way to have all the information. However, if you start with a first principle and then see the symptoms that follow that first principle, you can test your hypothesis much more effectively. So, for example, our first principle, our hypothesis or our premise or our axiom or our whatever you want to call it, a priori fact, whatever it is that all health challenges start from the digestive system. But I didn't make that up. There's some logic there because you see, the body is a closed system. It runs it's like a circle with no entry points. and everything inside the body just runs. However, there are two openings into that closed system, essentially. There's a few more, but two openings essentially. One is the skin, and the other is the mouth or the digestive system. So logically, there's only two ways the system can be disturbed. Either by injecting things in through the skin or by eating them. It's just logical. It's not science. It's not medical. It's logical. And as long as you can be logical, you can understand this. You have a closed system that's essentially closed, except for two openings, which is through the skin or through the mouth, which means through the intestine. And when we say into the body, we mean into the blood. We say into the body a lot, but what we really mean is into the blood. Whenever you hear into the body, you want to think into the blood. There's only two ways things get into the blood, through the intestine and through the skin. Now, to a certain extent, you breathe things too, but for all intents and purposes, because you have lots of hairs and lots of protection, that's not a problem. Sometimes it is, depending on what you're breathing. But for the most part, it's going to be through the mouth and through the skin. Through the skin, it could be drug abuse, crack, heroin, meth. Do you ever see pictures of meth addicts, people who are injecting meth or heroin? They look like heck. They look like hell. And they suffer from chronic degenerative diseases and autoimmune diseases because they're entering into the bloodstream. They're entering into the bloodstream. But for the people we hang out with, that's not going to be much of an issue. Sometimes maybe, perhaps it is, but for most people it's not, which leaves only one place, which is food. Once food gets into the bloodstream, it activates things. Even good food activates an immune response. But the foods we eat today didn't exist 150 or 200 years ago, and our digestive systems are 100,000 or 200,000 years old, depending on who you ask, maybe millions of years old. So we're eating food in the last 100, 150 years that didn't exist for most of our human life, our human existence on the planet.
Yeah, that's right.
So of course we're going to have issues. On top of that, we're eating 10 times the calories or 5 times the calories that we need to run our bodies. So of course we're going to have issues. On top of that, there's toxic substances in our food and drink that inflame the intestine, leading to the entrance of toxicity into the bloodstream with great facility. So for all of these reasons, it's just common sense to address the digestive system first and foremost, and to assume, if you have a health challenge, that it's coming from the digestive system first. Now, you have to get through people's preconceived ideas about good food, bad foods. You have to get get through people's guilt or bad feelings about food, not wanting to hear about it. And you just have to get through plain old resistance. People want to eat what they want to eat. But for people who are suffering from a health challenge, this represents a power point, a leverage point, a place that you can work to have an effect on the body. Simple example. There's a condition in the skin called rosacea.
Yeah.
Probably somebody here listening to this, out there in the room, or somebody on the Zoom call has rosacea. Everybody who has rosacea knows good and well that their rosacea will get worse when they eat certain foods. Everybody knows that. Who has rosacea? Raise your hand if you have rosacea. All right, nobody has it. Nobody wants to raise their hand, but you know what I'm saying. Everybody who has rosacea will know. They'll recognize, oh, yeah, I can't eat chocolate, or yeah, every time I have eggs, or whatever. But those people will still go to the dermatologist to take care of their rosacea, even though they know that when they eat certain foods, they get rosacea symptoms. They'll still go to the dermatologist. And I just got to digress real quick here. This is not about doctors being bad people. I always have to say this. We blame doctors. It's not their fault. I know I probably said it here before, but I want to say it again because I have a lot of friends who are doctors. I don't want to be accused of ripping on the people themselves. They're beautiful people. If you've ever been to an emergency room, they're absolute angels in the emergency room, saints from heaven, The love
Absolutely.
and the care and the attention you get from the medical folks in the emergency room or in the hospital are otherworldly. They're heavenly. They're divine. So I am not knocking on healthcare professionals who work in hospitals. This is about the model, the paradigm. The model and the paradigm presume that we are inevitably doomed, that there's nothing that can be done once your body breaks down. And if it's not recognized by the medical priests, then it's not true. That's the assumption. It's not their fault. It's the model. And God bless doctors, because when you get into a car accident or when you get in a rock hits you on the head or you break your leg, you're going to want to have it stitched up by a competent physician or whatever. If you have a serious health, an acute health challenge, you want to have a competent physician. And if you're in pain, you want drugs. But they're not equipped to handle the bulk of our health issues, which are lifestyle. Let me say that again. They're not equipped to handle the bulk of our health conditions. They don't have the tools. They don't have the idea tools, the conceptual tools, and they don't have the physical tools. But it doesn't matter because this is us. We can do it. I talked to a lady today. What's that?
I said amen to that.
Yes, we can do it ourselves. I talked to a gal today, and she had, hang on a quick second. I'm going to pull this up here. This is really wild. Hang on a second.
You're right.
Had an eye condition. She had an eye condition called ocular cicatricial. I can't even say it. Ocular cicatricial pemphigoid. What the heck is that?
I don't know either.
It's an autoimmune condition that involves a thickening of the eye tissue. It's an autoimmune disease. Whenever you have hyperkeratinization or thickening or hyperplasia, growth, you have inflammation. All diseases are inflammation. All of them. All diseases are inflammation. Inflammation is a protective response. Thus, remember, we're being logical here. Yeah. All diseases are inflammation. Inflammation is a protective response. Thus, all diseases are what, Bronie? Let me say it again. Let me say it again.
Inflammation.
All disease. Say it again.
From inflammation.
But what is inflammation?
It's protecting it. It's like an airbag.
No, what did I just say? Just use my words. What did I just say? Let me say it again. All diseases are inflammation. Yeah. And all inflammation is a protective response. What is all disease? What is all disease, Bronie?
It's inflammation, which is a protective response.
Take out the word inflammation. What is all disease?
It's a protective response.
Bingo. Bingo.
Bronie goes to the top of the class.
That's all you need to know. And it's in the word, by the way. Dis-ease. You're out of ease. Something's wrong. You're protecting yourself. All disease is a protective response. Can you see how powerful that is? Yeah. All disease is a protective response. All disease is a protective response. So if you want to end a protective response, what's the logical thing you got to find out or you got to look for?
What's causing it?
What the offending agent is. Yeah. Anytime a doctor says, I don't know what's causing it, you just tell him to be logical. This is logic. This is not science. Obviously. Do you guys get how important this is? It's not genetic. It's not your mother had it, so you're going to have it. It's not a viral or bacterial issue. It's a protective response. So we got to figure out what the offending agent is. Now, when we talk about protective response, we mean protecting the blood. This is another concept that you got to understand. When we talk about the body, we're talking about the blood. So when we say protecting the body, we're talking about protecting the blood. How do things get into the blood? There's only two ways: digestion and through the skin. So thus, not because I'm a food guy, not because I'm a food man, not because I'm some Mr. Organic, Boulder, Colorado, hippy dippy, eat your veggies guy. I'm not that. I'm telling you this is logical. If all disease is a protective response, and a protective response that you want to end requires us to find an offending agent, the question then becomes, what is the offending agent, or where is the offending agent? And because we're talking about the blood, there's only two ways things get into the blood. It has to be food and digestion, and then blood sugar. And they're related, because once food and digestion are thrown off, it's a short jump to elevated blood to dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar. And then you throw in all the sugar we're eating, and of course we're going to have problems with blood sugar. All disease can be reduced to those 2 points. Now, if you want to do everything, go all out, work on your adrenal glands, relax, make sure you're doing breathing, exercises. But because the blood sugar system is linked to stress hormone, because the digestive system is linked to stress hormone, you're going to get plenty of adrenal benefits by working on your digestion and your blood sugar.
Yes.
And because the thyroid is responsive to the adrenal glands, you're going to get plenty of thyroid help by working on the digestive system and the blood sugar. This should be the best news anybody who has a health challenge ever heard. Anybody. And if you want to prove it, because everything needs to be proven, these are the theories, these are the ideas, the concepts, but you can prove it. And here's how you prove it. If you're dealing with endometriosis, with fibromyalgia, with cancer, with dementia, with skin problems, with movement disorders, with Parkinson's disease, whatever, stop eating for 2 days. And almost everybody will notice a reduction in their symptoms, which are inflammatory symptoms. It's almost impossible not to. Now, if you're way, way, way down the rabbit hole and you've been broken down for years and years, it may be a little bit longer, but for the vast majority of people, within a 24 to 48 hour fast, you will notice you feel better. And when you start eating again, you'll notice you feel worse. That's your proof. That's your proof. Then once you got that and you're now a believer, which, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be because it's all logical. Now you start your work, or you start your patient's work, or your client's work, or your customer's work. And that always involves a food diary, because we don't recognize digestive symptoms unless they only happen periodically. We don't notice them when they happen all the time.
No,
and for
true.
many people, their symptoms are happening all the time. So they don't notice. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And if you understand this whole flow of starting off with your premise and then working downwards through using logic, then you know that if you have symptoms, something must be in the blood. And if it ain't getting in the blood through IV injection or vaccine or drugs, whatever it is, then it has to be food. So you do a food diary, and where there's smoke, there's fire. If somebody says, I have no digestive problems, you don't believe them. If they're symptomatic, you don't believe them. It's not possible. And not because they're lying, and not because they're stupid, and not because they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes, but because they don't know. And that's why
connect the dots.
They haven't connected the dots. They don't know some people don't know heartburn's a digestive problem. Some people don't notice that they bloat. Some people could have a bowel movement every 2 days and don't think that's a problem. So they don't know. So you have to have them do a food diary and write things down. But you have to assume where there's smoke, there's fire. So if somebody says, oh, I'm inflamed, flame, fire, by the way, inflamed. You can't say, oh, I'm inflamed. I'm sorry, I'm inflamed, but there's no fire. You can say, they can't say that. Or they can't say, yeah, I smell smoke, but there's no fire. I have fire retardant in it. I put asbestos in the wall, so there can't be a fire. You've got smoke, you got a fire. So you do a food diary and you isolate and you get them to write everything down. This does a couple things, by the way. Number one, it vests your customer or your client or yourself. And for anybody who's taking care of somebody else or helping somebody else in any way, or if it's you yourself, you want to be vested in your health, your healing process. You want your customer vested in their healing process. You want them part of the process. The worst thing is when a customer says, you fix me. You don't want that. Because just
Nice.
like they say, you'll fix me, they'll blame you too. You want your customer participating 100%. And that's what a food diary does. Number two, what a food diary does is it shows them the impact of their lifestyle choices on their bodies. Now, when you sit and think about it for a second, you say, well, how can food not affect your body? How can food not affect your body? It has to. It's getting in. It has to have an effect.
Well, it's
But
either good or bad, isn't it?
either good or bad, it has to have an effect. It can't not have an effect. So it has to have an effect. Nonetheless, it's still amazing to somebody when they say, oh my God, every time I have corn, I bloat. Every time I have oats, I get red. Every time I have eggs, I get brain fog. Every time I have beans, I have gas or constipation. They'll start to see things. So number one, they're vested in their health healing process. And number two, they can now see they have some control. See, when you're sick, and you guys can relate to this out there, and you don't know what the heck's causing it, that is freaky. That's terrible. That is so disempowering to have pain or to swelling or stuff on your face or on your skin or heart palpitation, whatever, and not know what's causing it. But now, oh my God, every time I have eggs, I bloat. Every time I have corn, every time I have sugar, I have heart races. Every time I have bread, my Parkinson's gets worse. This is powerful. You can change somebody's life just with that. Now they've got some control over their life. They're going to the doctor, and the doctor, God love him, is saying, I don't know, no known cause. It just happens. That's just the way it is. That is so disempowering. Now they say, oh my God, I have some control. I can do certain things. And yeah, you may not do it, but if I want to, I can. That is huge, you guys, huge. So number one, they're participating. Number two, they're actually seeing the impact of their choices on their high blood pressure or rosacea or Parkinson, whatever it is. And number three, they see that you know what you're doing because their doctor didn't tell them this. Nobody told them this. That elevates you. That makes you, to them, unbelievably valuable, as it should be, because you are unbelievably valuable if you understand all of these things. So always a food diary. This is all to say, always a food diary. You have them come back, and then you let them know. It's a good idea usually for them to fast before they do the food diary, because symptoms become more obvious to you if you take a couple days off of food. And a fast is always good. And like I said earlier, if you have symptomatic and you fast, you're going to feel better. So a fast is always helpful. And fasting is one of the all-time great health strategies. All-time great health strategies, as is calorie restriction. There's two kinds of food, by the way. There's a kind of food we want to eat, and there's the kind of food we have to eat.
Yes.
We need to eat. 99% of the food is the food we want to eat. 99% of the time that we eat is because we want to, not because we have to. And if you want to do a little trick, you don't have to follow through with it, but this is a good little trick that you can see. The next time you're hungry, see if you're hungry from here or from here. See if your belly's hungry or your brain is hungry. If your brain is hungry, exactly. And then go have whatever it is you want to have. Go have whatever you want to have. But now you'll see something very important. Your stomach is not hungry. Your body's not hungry. You're not eating because you're hungry. Now, you can go ahead and eat whatever you want, but it's just good to see, to notice. It's a great way to lose weight, too. If you're trying to lose weight, it's a great way to reduce your calorie intake if you keep checking in with your belly. In fact, sometimes your belly will actually beg you not to eat. If you start listening, your brain will say, I want that pizza. And your belly will say, please, no, don't do this to us. And usually the brain wins. That's usually how it is. But at least check in and you'll see that. Check in with your belly. You'll see most of the time we eat from our brain. In fact, if you have that experience where you're looking at the menu and you're like, well, I don't know. What do I want to eat today? Do I want the lemon chiffon pie? Do I want the fish? Or if you don't know what you want to eat, you ain't hungry. That's not hungry. When you're hungry, you'll eat whatever. And most of the time, we don't even know what hunger is. Praise God that we don't know what hunger is, because we don't know what hunger is. because we continuously graze. Also, fasting and even calorie restriction, but especially fasting, cleans out your pipes. Your digestive pipes get cleaned out when you fast. That's why people have great bowel movements on day 2 of a fast, or sometimes even day 1 on a fast, because everything gets cleaned out. And it's not just the food in the intestines that gets cleaned out in the digestive tract. The cells themselves get cleaned out. There's a process called autophagy, which is the cleaning out of cells, and that fasting enhances autophagy. So under conditions of fasting, by the way, ironically and interestingly, your body's energy generating systems turn on. After you reach a certain point when you fast, you have more energy.
Strange,
why would that be? What's that?
It's strange, that isn't it?
Isn't that strange? Yeah, you have more energy, right? Do you know there are whole countries that shut down after lunch? They call them siestas.
Yes.
They lunch, they got to take a nap. Now, does that make sense to anybody? Why is it that after you put gas in the tank, now you got to go take a nap? Right? Because when we eat food, our blood and nutritional resources are all directed away from our brain and away from our muscles into our digestive tract to process and take care of the nutrients and absorb the nutrients. When you don't eat, all that blood is in your brain and in your muscles and in your skin and in your connective tissue and in your heart. It's on all the organs. Do you want to digest your food, or you want to live a long life? Do you want to digest your food, or you want to have beautiful skin? Do you want to digest your food or fight cancer? Do you want to digest your food or grow and repair? That's really what it amounts to. The more nutritional and circulatory resources are dedicated to digesting your food, the less you have for the good stuff. So fasting is a powerful, tried and true throughout history. It was the original medicine, actually, was fasting. People fasted in Sumeria and in Egypt for health because they knew they felt better when they fasted. And by the way, the ketogenic diet is a fasting diet. The ketogenic diet was invented because people didn't want to fast. So they looked in the blood of people who fasted, and they figured out a menu that would duplicate the blood chemistry of a fasting person. And that diet that duplicates the blood chemistry of a fasting person is called the ketogenic diet. It involves low calories, 1,200 calories a day. And of those calories, the vast majority are calories from fat, quality fat. But it's only 1,200 calories. So if 80% or 90% of your calories come from fat, right? What does that come out to? That comes out to 960 calories or so, right? From fat. That's not a lot of fat. That doesn't mean you can eat a bag of potato chips and donuts and bacon and, French fries. And that's what people think when they hear the ketogenic diet. I can eat all the fat I want. That's not what it means. It means a large percentage of your 1,200 calories come from fat. It's a low calorie diet. And it turns out when you eat that way, you get the same or similar blood chemistry to somebody who fasts, which involves the generation of, as the name tells you, ketones. And ketones are little nuclear energy bombs, super high energy compounds that the body can burn and get lots of energy from. And this is an evolutionary strategy that allows us to survive lean times. There wasn't always a lot of food. In fact, there were, up until about 200 years ago, people starved in this country, probably even today. But certainly it was at an increase. It was at a lot higher pace, hundreds and even thousands of years ago, and tens of thousands of years, certainly, when we were hunter-gatherers. So the body has evolved mechanisms for getting through the lean times. And those mechanisms involve making us stronger so we can go find a woolly mammoth. You understand what I'm saying? So under times of starvation, this is how great God is, or whatever you want to say. When we get weak, we get stronger. So we can go out and get food so we can eat. Now, it's short term, and eventually starvation will kick in, obviously. But in the short term, when you fast 1 day, 2 days, even 3 days, your body kicks into a secondary mode of generating energy that gives you superpowers in order to go, from an evolutionary perspective, in order to go find food. So fasting is a powerful, powerful technique. And in terms of our food diary, it will help your patient or yourself or whoever it is see their symptoms more profoundly, more dramatically. There'll be more of a contrast. They'll notice things more. So they write things down in food diary, have them eat as usual. You don't want them to eat any difference because you want to see what they're doing, what's going on. And then you tell them to check back with you. Check back with me in a week. And this is all in the interest of getting data. This is what we're doing here. We're gathering data. When you're doing a scientific project or experiment, you need data. When somebody calls you and tells you, hey, I got a back pain, I got heart problems, blah, 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 hypertension, whatever it is, you need data in order to figure this thing out. And we already said that it's all about something getting into the system. It's all about attack. So we need data to try to isolate the offending agent. Then you move on to the second point. And then, by the way, I didn't tell you about the supplements. There's tons of supplements for the digestive system. And I want to get the theory first, then we can talk about the supplements. The second point is the blood sugar system. There's a major relationship, major relationship between food processing at the level of the intestine and the blood sugar system, and the other way around, and the blood sugar system and the intestine. And there's a major underappreciated relationship between insulin and blood sugar and your hormones. Your steroid hormones, particularly your female hormones, your male hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, stress hormone, and thyroid hormone and blood sugar. And this is why we can't work with our steroid hormones by themselves or the thyroid by itself, because it's responsive to insulin and blood sugar, which in turn is responsible to the digestive system. And their digestive system and there's a crosstalk. There's an interrelationship that goes both ways between the blood sugar system and the intestine. And not surprisingly, there is also crosstalk and interrelationship between the thyroid and the digestive system. They're all linked together in this web. But in interest of simplicity, focus on those 2 points. The blood sugar system is obviously tweaked out because of how we eat. The average American, I'm sure the average Australian is the same way, eats 185 pounds of sugar a year. Okay, can you imagine? It's half a pound a day. Can you picture this? Half a pound of sugar a day. How is that even possible? It's possible because sugar is stuck into all kinds of foods. Buns at McDonald's have sugar in them. Chicken at Boston Chicken has sugar in it. I go to Whole Foods, which is, I don't know if you know what Whole Foods is. You know what Whole Foods is? Like a fancy schmancy health food store. Do you have them in Australia, Whole Foods? Whole Foods. I go buy turkey. The turkey has sugar in it. Everything. We're sugar everywhere. So obviously, our sugar system is going to get thrown off. The sugar system or sugar, I should say, is very dangerous stuff. Sugar explodes. It's hot. It's hot. It burns hot. It's like a fuel. It is a fuel. That's how your body gets fuel. It's a fuel. So it burns hot. So your body can only handle small amounts of sugar. In your entire bloodstream, you want less than a teaspoon of sugar. Wow. After you drink a Coke, you now have introduced 6 teaspoons of sugar, or 7. If it's a big gulpy, probably 20 teaspoons of sugar. And you're only supposed to have 1. And you do this over and over and over and over again. When sugar hits the blood, a red alert is sent. I don't know if you ever saw the show Lost in Space. There's a show Lost in Space here in the United States where
that's a long time ago when I was.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
I loved
you know what I'm talking? So do you remember when the robot? Remember the robot?
Yes.
Remember when danger, Will Robinson, danger. That's your bloodstream when sugar hits it. Danger. It's like that. It's an emergency. So immediately insulin comes to the rescue. Insulin does a lot of things, but it's a feeding hormone. It supports the feeding of cells. It feeds them the sugar. It takes the sugar out of the blood and feeds the cells. It feeds some of the muscle cells, mostly the fat cells.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, insulin is also important for vitamins and for minerals and for all the nutrients that a cell has to get. Insulin supports the feeding of cells. This is going to be very important here in a moment. So insulin supports the feeding of cells. This is how sugar comes out of this is how sugar is pulled out of the blood. Now, when you eat sugar and sugar is pulled out of the blood, what happens? You feel tired. So you go out and get more sugar. And then insulin comes to the rescue, pulls the sugar out of the blood. You're low blood sugar. You feel tired. And you get more sugar. Same thing happens. This happens over and over and over and over again from the time a human being is a child or a baby even, till he's a teenager, to when he's an adult, till he's in middle age, right through your entire lifetime. We go through this. Sugar pulls the insulin pulls the sugar out of the blood, low blood sugar. We eat more sugar, insulin comes out, the whole thing. I call it the high blood sugar, low blood sugar roller coaster. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, here's where it becomes really problematic. That's bad enough. This high blood sugar, low blood sugar, up and down kind of thing that we go through. That's bad enough. That throws off the cortisol and the adrenals. That's bad enough. But it's worse than that, because you see, this is where it becomes really, really problematic. Number one, the body has a mechanism for turning, or cells, I should say, have a mechanism for turning the volume down. So when something happens all the time, cells stop listening. Just like I said earlier, how the brain doesn't notice things that happen all the time, cells have their own version of that. They stop listening. And people even too. I grew up next to John F. Kennedy Airport, JFK Airport, New York, literally like a mile away, a mile and a half away. So there were planes every 5 to 10 minutes. There'd be a plane, and it would sound like it was right over your house, because it probably was literally close to your house. That's how close we were to JFK. And when we were in school or when we were talking to each other, every time a plane came by, we would stop talking. And then the plane would go by and we'd start talking. We didn't even notice it anymore. At the end, after doing this for a while, it was just second. We didn't even hear the plane. We just stopped. And this is how the body is. It gets used to things. And this is a good thing. However, when it comes to chemistry, it can be a problem. You see, when insulin is constantly and chronically entering into the bloodstream to pull sugar out, eventually cells stop listening to insulin. And then what happens is the sugar stays high. Now, when the sugar stays high, that's a problem. So the body, the pancreas, will then start pumping out more insulin in an attempt to get the cells to listen to more. They'll yell louder, essentially. And so that'll work for a little bit. And then eventually the cells get used to that. And then the sugar goes up high. And that's a problem. Talk about that here in a second. So the pancreas will pump out even more insulin. And again, this happens over and over and over and over again until a point is reached when you are into what is called insulin resistance. That's a term that is used or that defines type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance syndrome. It's an insulin resistance disease. Type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance following chronic long-term ingestion of high amounts of sugars and carbohydrates and insulin. So this is where it becomes a problem. Now you can see how the mechanism starts. Here's where it becomes a problem. Sugar burns things. It is super, super hot inside the body. That's why it has to get pulled out of the blood quickly. Sugar reacts with protein. If you've ever, you like your potatoes nice and crisp, right? Or your meat, you like your meat nice and crisp, you know, all that is the reaction of sugar and protein, or sugar and, or in the case of potatoes, sugar and oil. But in the case of meat, it's sugar and protein. And that same reaction, it's called glycation, occurs in your bloodstream. It occurs in the blood vessels themselves. Hang on to that thought. This is going to become important. It burns the blood vessels. And when it burns the blood vessels, it can create major havoc, especially if the blood vessels are very thin, microscopically thin. I mean, kind of picture this. You think of a thread, right? A blood vessel capillary is microscopically thin is 100 times thinner than a thread. Okay? Yeah. And so when blood goes through that capillary, Can I get a praise the Lord just for that? You know, I mean, you got hundreds of thousands of miles of these things. I forgot. I think it's like 50,000 miles of blood vessels, something like that. Anyway,
A lot.
What's that?
That's a lot.
It's a lot, right? And so when the sugar passes through these capillaries, these tiny, tiny, microscopically thin vessels, it burns them. And they get damaged. And when they get damaged in your eyes, you can go blind. And guess what? Diabetes is the leading cause of blindness. When they get damaged in your fingers and your toes, your nerves will burn. And you won't get oxygen to the extremities, and you'll get amputations. And diabetes is the leading cause of amputation. And when it burns the tiny capillaries in the kidneys, you will get kidney disease. And diabetes is the leading cause of kidney disease. What's worse is when these sugar particles get in the big blood vessels, not worse, just as bad. It's not worse. It's just because that's bad. This is just as bad. When these sugar particles burn the inside of blood vessels, the blood vessels become damaged on the inside. And one of their responses to damage is to get calluses, to get thicker. And this raises the blood pressure because now you've got a smaller tube for the blood to go through. When they get damaged, the body will actually patch up the damage with calcium and cholesterol, and they'll form plaques. This is where plaques come from. And it's all from the sugar, just the sugar that's in the blood following insulin resistance because it's not getting pulled out of the blood. But it's even worse because insulin itself is a problem. Insulin is a growth hormone, or not, it's not a growth hormone, but it has growth effects. Actually, you know what? You could call it a growth hormone, I suppose, because it has growth effects. Farmers will give their cattle insulin to make them fatter. When I was bodybuilding, when I was a teenager, there were guys in the gym who were doing insulin to get bigger. Insulin tells the body it's time to grow. Why? Because from an evolutionary perspective, when did we have sugar? In the summertime. In the summertime is when the body was supposed to be moving, hunting and gathering and doing things and building. In the wintertime, from an evolutionary perspective, we didn't grow. We sat at home. Or whatever home was, in the cave, whatever it was. In the summertime is associated with movement, action. So insulin is a summertime hormone. It's a feeding hormone. From an evolutionary perspective, we had food in the summertime. We didn't really have food in the wintertime from an evolutionary perspective. Food was a summertime phenomenon. So when the body sees insulin, when cells see insulin, it says, let's grow. It's time to grow. And growth chemistry will be initiated. Part of growth chemistry, for example, is the production of cholesterol, because cholesterol is required for making cells. So when insulin goes up, guess what else goes up? Cholesterol. And you'll go to the doctor and they'll say, well, your cholesterol seems to be a little high. We'll put you on a statin drug. Completely oblivious to the fact that your cholesterol is high because your insulin's high. What's more, insulin tells cells to divide rapidly. It's a growth substance. But if you don't have the nutrients present and the oxygen present, you don't want growth. Because if you have growth without the nutrients present, you get hypergrowth, overgrowth, growth that doesn't stop. What do we call that? Cancer. And if you take insulin and put it in a petri dish with a breast cell, that breast cell will become cancerous to the extent that you put insulin in it. Insulin makes cells cancerous if there's not balancing nutrients. So now you've got elevated blood sugar causing glycation. You got elevated insulin causing cancers and growth and rapid cell division and cholesterol. And you have a perfect storm for biochemical breakdown and dysfunction, all from insulin and sugar. And this is why every single study that's ever been done on food shows that the less you eat and the lower your blood sugar and your insulin, the longer you will live. But now you see the mechanisms behind it. So I could tell you blood sugar and digestion, blood sugar, but now you see what's behind it, how it works, the mechanisms of it. If you will reduce your sugar intake or help the body process sugar, I'll tell you how you do that in a second, and eliminate problem foods and help the body process foods, there isn't a single chronic health condition that won't get better. Not a single one. It's not possible. It has to. Now, if you have cancer, and depending on how far down the rabbit hole you are, you will feel better with these strategies. But whether or not that cancer switch gets turned back on, I can't say. But your goal and our goal as healthcare professionals and distributors and patients should be to help our patients or help ourselves feel better. That's our goal. That's the metric. We want to feel better. We don't care what the diagnosis is. We don't care whether our metrics get better or our cholesterol levels drop or our blood sugar levels drop or whatever. We just want to feel better. Who cares what your numbers are? You want to feel better. And I guarantee you, if you do these, follow these 2 points, everything we just talked about, you will feel better. You have to. Lower your insulin, stabilize your insulin. Oh, and by the way, now that you know, I hope you understand how problematic insulin is on its own. Insulin speeds things up. It's a growth substance. Oh, I forgot to say one other thing. Remember I said how insulin feeds cells nutrients, vitamins, minerals, fatty acids. They all go into the cells from insulin too. It's not just sugar. What do you think happens when cells stop listening to insulin?
They don't take those in either.
They don't take the nutrients. That's another issue with insulin resistance, is your cells become sicker. So you can see how problematic this is. And here's where it really gets, we have an issue. When you go to the doctor and they check your blood, whether you're a diabetic or whether you're a normal person, a healthy person, or you just want to have your blood checked, they check for blood sugar, but they don't check for insulin. Why would that be? Well, it turns out that insulin tests are very, very expensive. Blood sugar tests are routine. But here's why you want to know your insulin. Because you see, insulin helps sugar go into the cells from the blood, helps lower blood sugar. But if your insulin is super high and your blood sugar is normal, that's going to mess you up just as much as anything else. And nobody's going to know it. And the doctor will say, oh, your blood sugar is normal. You're not a diabetic. And he doesn't know that's because your insulin levels are so high. Wow. Insulin itself is a problem. It's not just the blood sugar. So what you have to do, if you're symptomatic, you don't even have to do it. If you want to know, you should have your insulin checked, but you have to ask for that and you have to pay extra for that. And it's not done routinely. But you don't really even have to do that. Just lower your blood sugars, change the way you eat, reduce your calories. So here's how you do everything. I tell you about supplements. For the digestive system, food diary, eliminate problem foods, definitely. Probiotics and fiber are very important. But if you have SIBO, and I think we talked about SIBO before, didn't we?
Yes, we did a whole session on.
Okay, we did a whole thing on SIBO. Okay, so I don't need to, we should do it again because it's so darn important. But in any case, if you have hyperproliferation of bacteria in the small intestine, probiotics and fiber can feed them. And sometimes those people will say, I feel worse after I take my probiotics. Have you ever heard people say that?
Yes.
That's what's happening. So you got to be careful with probiotics and fiber. That being said, done carefully, they're very important. I-26 will kill excess bacteria. That's an awesome product. And then so will essential oils. Also, making sure that you're producing enough stomach acid or replacing your stomach acid with apple cider vinegar, betaine HCl, or stomach bitters with your meals. And then also digestive enzymes with your meals. Also, bile salts for the liver. And if you really want, and bile salts are in the ultimate enzymes, by the way. And if you really want to go all out, get pancreatin, which you can get it here in this country. I assume you can get it there. Longevity has a little pancreatin in their ultimate enzymes, but if you really want to go all out, go get some extra pancreatin. for the digestive.
Good herbs, pancreas.
Probably. I don't know what Australia's online.
No, the good herbs line has a.
Is it online or is it in Australia?
Yeah, the longevity good herbs.
Oh no, I don't think longevity has any pancreas. That's kind of a
I
pharmacy
have a pancreas one in the good
Yeah,
herbs.
now if they have anything with anything is glandular, do you know?
I haven't got one right here.
Find out what it is and I can tell you.
Kevin might know.
Find out what it is and I can tell you. Okay, so that's the digestive system. For the blood sugar system, healthy blood sugar pack. I always throw in the ultimate niacin for blood sugar, the ultimate MSM sulfur. I think the ultimate selenium's in there. MSM sulfur, zinc, the OptiZinc, or the Zinc FX, I'm sorry, the Zinc FX, the Osteomag. Magnesium is very important for the blood sugar system. And drinking water with your meals, beyond Tangy Tangerine even, with your meals. And drinking fluids first thing in the morning. Your blood sugar is concentrated first thing in the morning. And moving the body. Exercise shunts the sugar from the blood into the muscle. So moving your body. All of these strategies, drinking water and moving your body, are especially important after you eat or after you fall off the wagon. If you go to a Christmas party or office party or something like that and you eat a bunch of sugar. Also, if you are trying to wean yourself off of sugar, the TMR shake is a great way to do it. I am loving that TMR shake. And it's like a dessert if you do it right. And you do small amounts of it. Just do like a teaspoon in a little bit of almond milk and water. And then use that for your sugar cravings. And you'll get a whole bunch of nutrients and no sugar.
Wow, that's a good tip.
Yeah, keep a little envelope or a plastic bag with you when you go to work, and just do a teaspoon, put it in water, and a little. I like almond milk, and it might be hard to have almond milk at work or wherever. Even water works. And they have these. Longevity used to have these little mixers. Do they still have them?
Yes, they do.
Those little mixing devices. Get those mixing devices. In fact, that's a great business tool. If you get those mixing devices, you can actually sell them to people when you give them a little TMR shake, because they're going to want that TMR shake, and you give them a freebie or something with the TMR shake. Carry those around with you. I think they're like $2 or something.
Yeah, I can't remember how much they are, but they're probably more than that down. More than that down here.
They're pretty inexpensive. All right. So anyway, that was a long time talking about 2 points, but it was 2 points. What are those 2 points, Bronie? Because you're our representative here. What are the 2 points? 2 points.
Blood sugars and the yeah.
What? You forgot already? The digestive system.
The digestive system.
Yeah. Well, I should tell you that one last thing. Have you heard of metabolic syndrome?
Yes.
Metabolic syndrome is insulin resistance syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is the end result of insulin resistance. And you can see how important insulin is. Metabolic syndrome involves the thyroid and the liver and the brain and the heart, especially the heart, and the body fat. So insulin resistance is everything. Everything. Metabolic, I love the name metabolic syndrome because metabolic means everything. Your metabolism is everything. They might as well call it everything syndrome because it's everything. All right. So is that a good explanation here? Simple. Digestive system, blood sugar. You guys, digestive system, blood sugar. Digestive system, blood sugar. I love talking about the mechanisms, because I always want you to understand how it's happening. I don't want to just tell you, assert. I want you to be your own health authority and your patients and your clients to be their own health authorities, but you don't need to know any of it. It's just really interesting how our bodies work, and knowledge is power. And you know what else knowledge is? Knowledge is love. We don't love our bodies. Do you guys get that? When was the last time you loved your intestine? You sent your intestine some love. Your skin. I'm in the skin business. When was the last time you thanked your skin? The only time we ever even think about our skins, we go like, oh my God, where did that come from? Holy cow. Oh, that wasn't there yesterday. God darn it. That's the only time. We never say, thank you, vitamin D, and you're protecting my organs, and you're making fats and hormones, and you heal so fast. We never say that. We never thank our heart. How can you imagine? Well, knowledge is love. When you know something, when you love somebody, don't you really want to know everything about them?
Yes.
Don't you want to know everything? Your kid, don't you want to know everything about your kid?
Yes.
right? Don't you? Don't you?
I don't
Why?
want
So you
you
want
to
to know
know
everything
everything
about?
about them, but that's
What's,
beside you.
yeah, don't you want to know everything about your spouses? Well, maybe not always, but most of the time, you want to know everything about people you love. And the body's the same way. We don't really treat our bodies with love because you know why? There's two major compartments to us. And the Greeks call them psyche and soma. You ever heard of this? Psyche and soma. Psyche is the mind, the brain. Soma is the body. We are psych heavy. We're psychology. We're in the head. That's why I said earlier, we eat from our head, not from our belly. The only reason we eat from our head is because we're not paying attention to our bodies. The only time we pay our attention to our bodies is when our bodies are yelling at us. And the yelling comes out as pain or discomfort. That's the only time we pay attention to our bodies. So I encourage everybody to when you go home, you may not want to do this, but you should, get a full-length mirror and stand there naked and look at yourself and love your body, and not just the outside of it, the inside of it too. I know some of you want to throw up in your mouth a little bit, but you have to. We have to. And you know what else? It helps if you put a paper bag on your head with just the eyes cut out, so you don't get in your face doesn't interfere with it. You're just seeing your body, and you're sending your body love. That's an awesome exercise to do. If you don't want to do that, at least just talk to your body. I had a really serious leg injury when I was a kid, when I was in my 30s, not when I was a kid, but it seems like a kid. And I could tell that my leg was so sad. It was a sad leg. It was so broken. And you know what I did? I sent so much love to that leg. I poured love on it. I mean, I told it how much I loved it, how much I care for it. I wasn't even supposed to walk normally. I was supposed to be limping the rest of my life. And I healed so fast, nobody could believe it. And to this day, there's no sign of it. You can't, I don't limp, I run, I do everything. And I had a major leg accident. Notice when you're sick, out there, when you're sick, that your body's sad. Can you feel that? Do you guys feel that? Sit still. Stillness is this. A lot of this comes through when we sit still. A lot of people can't sit still. Have you noticed a lot of people, you all have to do stuff all the time? When you have to do stuff all the time, you're avoiding something. If you're compelled to do stuff all the time, always be moved, always be doing something, you can't sit still, you're avoiding something. And this will show up as insomnia, by the way, because when you're in bed, you got no choice. So what you do is you can't.
Well, then people still get up
on my front door. So anyway, be kind and loving to the body by talking to it, by feeling it, by being with it, and doing it in a state of stillness. One of the best things about meditation is it makes you still. We need to learn how to be still so we can listen to our bodies. It's no accident in the Bible it said, be still and know. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Right out of the Bible. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know. It doesn't say run around and know. It says be still and know. So practicing stillness and feeling your body, being in touch with your body is so darn important. And being in your body as much as or more than in your head. All right. And by the way, I'm going to say this last thing, and I'll answer questions. When you focus on a part of your body, and Bronie, you be our host here. I want you to do this, okay? I want you to close your eyes and focus on the bottom of your foot on the floor. And think about the bottom of your foot on the floor. Focus on it. Now focus on your shin. Your shin. Place your attention on your shin. Just kind of feel what your shin feels like. Now place your attention on your knee. Kind of feel what that little bump on the top feels like, what the bone feels like. Feel the knee. And now move up to your thighs. Feel your thighs, the tops of your thighs. Feel the roundness of your thighs, how they round and they touch the chair. And now feel your butt on the chair, the connection that your butt has with the chair. Feel that. Really concentrate. Feel that. Never think about that. Okay, now open your eyes. Do you feel how relaxed you are?
Yes.
Do you notice how you can see? You guys can see. When you focus on your body parts, yeah, exactly my point. Exactly my point. You know,
she just kept going on, be asleep, and you would have all had.
She just dropped her blood pressure. She just dropped her stress hormones. She improved her immunity. She added years to her life. Bronie, you added years to your life. You reduced the likelihood of horrible disease. You guys see what this is? You see what's happening here? This is all at our disposal. This is all at our disposal from the comfort of our own kitchens, bathrooms, bedrooms, living rooms. Health is not medical.
And it costs nothing to do that.
It has nothing. What's that?
And it costs nothing to do that.
And it costs nothing to do that. All right, let's take some questions. Couple.
Okay. Well, Karen's
there's no questions. That was a long one.
That was a long one in the thing, but just want to ask you first from Gracie. She has a customer asking about stem cell patches. What are your thoughts on stem cell patches?
Stem cell patches sounds like some kind of that's not a medical thing. No, stem cells are cells. They're alive. They need to be fed. You can't have them in a patch unless you're feeding them somehow. You have to exist.
No, that's what I couldn't.
That sounds like some kind of silly. That sounds like some kind of marketing thing.
Yes.
I don't see how you can have a stem cell. You can't have a cell. You know, you hear about stem cell and skincare products. Have you ever heard this?
Yes.
There's no such thing. Cells are alive. They need to be fed. You can't put them in a cream. They'll die in a cream. You can't have, no. Stem cells are medical. They have to be kept in little vials, and, you know, there's no stem cells in products.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought too. But anyway, Karen's got a question a very long question in the chat. Karen, you want to unmute yourself, please? And are you bringing I don't know which one she's bringing up, herself or her group?
Yes.
Karen, Shulman.
Chill, man.
I don't know where she's gone. I'm trying to... Karen.
Chill, man.
There she is. You've got to unmute as well.
Done.
There you go.
Right. I have to read it out. I have a customer, a friend.
Can't answer the door right now.
Cancer.
Hang on a second. Go ahead.
Yeah. She had cancer. Well, stage 3 breast cancer at 47. She's now 60.
Okay.
She had one ductal block, which she was told was feeding off estrogen. It put her into early menopause at 47. She got put on that Femara. And then now at 60, she's had a positive test for a papilloma virus, whatever. Right. And the doctors want to start her on estrogen cream. But
all right, so I can't tell you what to do with your doctors except to say nothing. I won't say anything, except I'm sorry. So this is a woman who has estrogen problems, clearly. Is she a friend of yours, somebody you know?
Yeah.
Is she curvy?
No.
Curvy woman? Lean woman?
No.
Lean or curvy?
Skinny or chubby. Well, she's not skinny, but she's not fat. Well, she's skinny.
I didn't say fat. I didn't say fat. I said curvy.
She's curvy, you know.
Curvy.
Oh, curvy thin, not curvy fat. Yeah.
Curvy, not fat. Curvy. Is she curvy?
Curvy thin, yeah.
Okay, curvy. Okay. Curvy is estrogen. She's got an estrogen problem. Whenever you have an estrogen problem, you got a problem. Because estrogen is a growth substance like insulin. It makes things grow. It makes cells divide. It's pro-inflammatory. And in fact, it is the strongest of all the hormones the body makes. And that's why the body gets rid of it quickly. It gets rid of it through the liver. It gets rid of it through bile. It gets rid of it through the intestine. There's a major relationship between insulin and the steroid hormones. Remember me saying that? And that includes estrogen. So there's a major connection between the growth substance insulin and the growth substance estrogen. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get this woman on the healthy blood sugar pack, and she'll say, I'm not a diabetic. She doesn't know because of that whole thing I just told you about insulin and blood sugar. She's had her blood sugar checked, but not her insulin. Or she may know she's a diabetic. So, or she has sugar problems. Everybody benefits from the healthy blood sugar pack. Then you want to get her on, of course, all of the digestive support. Estrogen is cleared out in the liver and in the intestine. When the intestine is not doing its business, it's not working correctly, and you have SIBO and you have bacterial overgrowth, you can get reactivation of estrogen. Estrogen that's eliminated and detoxified will go into the intestine, and then it will get reactivated by the bacteria. And then it'll go back in the bloodstream. And instead of this toxic hormone being eliminated, now it's circulating around and around and around, following messed up in SIBO, really, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Even worse, estrogen is one of the most important causes of leaky gut. The inflammation, its inflammatory effects affect the intestine, and it causes leaks and intestinal permeability, meaning all that stuff is going to get into the bloodstream, including histamine, which we've talked about, which is another accelerant, especially for inflammation for cancer. So she's got to work on digestive health with all the digestive system, digestive stuff, like we talked earlier with the nightly essence and the ultimate microbiome carefully, because you don't want to exacerbate any problems. FODMAPs, low FODMAPs diet, I-26, ultimate enzymes, all the digestive stuff. Think digestion. See, everything I'm saying here to you, she hasn't been to these talks. I mean, she doesn't know any of this stuff. She's going to be like, what? Am I tested? Am I cancer? She has no idea. You know, you've been coming to these talks for years, so this is starting to kind of click in here. She has no clue of any of this stuff. So digestion and blood sugar, and then also, if you want to throw in a couple other things, use the Estra test, or not Estra. What's it called? Zerofem. Estra test something else. Zerofem. Yeah, get her on the Zerofem. Any of the female health stuff, but really the problem is in the intestine and the blood sugar. That's where you want to focus on.
Okay, and because her main concern was her doctor was trying to get her onto that estrogen creams, which she should stay away from.
Estrogen is a major problem. She's already estrogenic, but this is not, you know, she, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, she has a de facto contract with her doctor. She has signed a contract de facto. She hasn't literally signed it. You know, de facto means not real, but in essence, it's true. She signed a contract. She has to do what he says. Otherwise, well, then that's between her. I don't know. I can't interfere with that. And I wouldn't want anybody interfering. If I tell somebody, I don't want them interfering either. So out of respect to the doctor, I can't interfere. Personally, she's already pumping out estrogen. Why would you put her on more estrogen? Again, I'm not a scientist. I mean, you don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be a doctor. This is logic, right? I'm not talking like a scientist. She's already got an estrogen problem. You want to put her on more estrogen? Much better is progesterone, not drug progesterone, real progesterone, not drug progesterone, real progesterone.
Yes.
Okay.
It's cool.
Ask him about iodine.
Huh?
Iodine. Ask him about
I'm
iodine.
listening to you. Yeah. What about it?
For breast cancer.
Oh, iodine for breast. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Is
iodine
iodine good for breast cancer?
Iodine is important for breast health. For cysts. If she's not doing iodine, I like iodoral. If you ever heard of that, iodoral for iodine, that's good. Whoever said that, whoever suggested that, iodine is important for all the glands, the adrenals, the breasts, pancreas, thyroid, of course. Yeah, so that's always a good idea.
Okay.
Good call. And the ultimate selenium also, by the way, I forgot about that. Or that's in the healthy blood sugar pack.
Yeah.
And fucoid.
And fucoid, good call. Fucoid, and also maybe restart your life. Fucoid, the Fucoid Z. Yeah, that's awesome. Whoever's throwing those out at you, you know your stuff.
It sounds like Liz.
It is.
That's
Liz.
good. Fucoid is great. That's fucoid and iodine. Good call, Liz.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Answered my question. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any more questions in your room way there, Karen?
Yep. Yep. What?
How much speaking should you take a day?
For the blood sugar.
I take 3 with every meal personally, but you can take 1 with every meal, 2 with every meal. I take 3.
3 with every meal. Yeah.
I only eat once or twice a day though.
Yeah, that's me too. I only have 1 meal a day, so I've been only taking it once.
So there you go. That's it.
All right. Anyone else? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bronie, it's late.
Yes,
Past
it
my
is
bedtime.
late, so I don't think we'll go any further today because
Thank you.
we're way over time.
Thank you, everybody, my Australian friends. I hope you
Thank
enjoyed.
Thank you very much.
I always want you to feel better. I always want you to be inspired and feel like you're more in control of your bodies than you were before I started. So I hope that's the case. God bless everybody.
Hang on, I think Kevin wants to say a word.
Hey,
No,
Kevin.
just saying goodbye.
I
Just
can't
sit
get
in the
used to
background.
the hair. Kevin, I can't get used to the hair. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
likewise. I just don't know where the curls have come from. I haven't had curls in my life before.
It's because it's been long, Kevin. That's why.
They're stretched like a bungee cord. It's curled back up again.
That's funny. All right, guys. Good to see
All
everybody.
right, well, great call today, guys, and thank you very much. This will go up this afternoon when my internet lets it go up. I've been having issues, but anyway, today or on my YouTube or here. So as I ask you nicely here in Bronie's World, to stay safe, stay informed, be empowered, but do not live in fear, my friends. And when you are checking out the line, taking care of your the 2 points of the line, what are they?
Blood sugar and digestion.
2 points. Oh, that's good. The horizon or the plane of disease. Come up with a clever name.
The horizon,
blood
the
sugar,
horizon of your health, the digestion, and the
Blood sugar.
blood sugar.
And insulin. Don't forget
So
insulin.
you put me to sleep with that exercise.
What's that?
You put me to sleep with that exercise.
Oh, that's great. Now you can do it when you want to fall asleep. That's how you fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly right.
Bye,
And
everybody.
then when you do that, you too will be powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and most definitely very brave. God bless you. We'll catch you again tomorrow here in
Thanks, Bonnie.
Bronie's
Thanks,
World.
Ben.
Thanks, Bronie. Thanks,
Bye.
Pharmacist Ben.
Thanks, team.